Welcome to our Cabernet Sauvignon sensing. I'm really happy to have a friend of mine today, Dan, who's also a neighbor, and you may have met his wife a little earlier when we did the Pinot Noir tasting. But so glad you could make it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me, and I'm looking forward to it. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
And this isn't the first time we've ever tasted some wines together.
No, we've done a few, and you've tried to teach me, but I'm a slow learner, so we'll see how it goes.
Ha, not true. Okay, so for sensing number 4, as you may recall at the end of the last sensing, we said you might want to read up on this grape, Cabernet Sauvignon. And we ask you to please purchase a bottle from each of these 3 regions. We think they're very good examples of good Cabernet Sauvignons. France, Bordeaux, California, Cab, and Italy or Australia. We picked Italy for this, one of the Super Tuscans. I've also tried that Australian Miles from Nowhere, and that is really a good deal. That's a nice wine too. Remember, the strategy for these sensings is to sense 3 Cabernet Sauvignon wines from 3 different regions. And we're going to rate them using the UC Davis system. And if you want to know more about that, or about how to do standard terminology with the wine wheel, go back to the introductory course. We go into a lot more detail on those 2 skill sets. But rating wines using the UC Davis system really does use your eyesight and looking at the wine, your nose and smelling it, taste buds, as well as feel in the mouth. And then you're going to be able to describe each dimension in standard wine terminology. The wine wheel really is helpful. You might want to get one on the web for helping you articulate what you are sensing. You're going to know this grape, and you're probably going to be able to identify it by region in the future, in particular cold climate versus warm climate. And you're going to develop your skill in assessing and describing the wine attributes. And you're going to have a great time evaluating wines. Now, red wines generally fall in a color of a spectrum from pink all the way to tawny brick red. Most of them that we see are garnet to purplish red. And the nose can be a very wide spectrum because it often depends on the bouquet also, not just the aroma that comes from the grape, but the bouquet that the winemaker adds by perhaps aging it in oak. The nose, we can get any clean, fresh characteristic out of it. Now, the Cabernet Sauvignon wine type is usually considered medium to full-bodied. I consider most of them kind of full-bodied, from what I drink anyway. They're not as light as a Beaujolais, but they may not be as powerful as like the Northern Rhones or the Australian Shiraz or the California Zins. They're dry and they can be austere. I remember in the mid-'80s when I first started tasting California Cabernet Sauvignons, everybody said you had to age them 5 years, and they were right. You couldn't drink them off the shelf. So now our winemaking techniques have improved, and they're not as austere as they used to be. They ripen late, and they'll fail to mature fully in cold climates. The natural tannin, it comes from the pits, skins, and stems. Lots of times they go ahead and ferment all that together, not just the grape juice and the grape skins. They are natural tannin, and they blend well with softer, juicier varieties like a Merlot and a Cabernet Franc, and that's what they do in Bordeaux. But for our first one, it's going to be a Bordeaux. And first of all, Cabernet Sauvignon is always called the king of wines. It's usually considered the biggest. It ages the longest of about any red grape. And France is considered the home of it. And Bordeaux, in particular, is considered the home of the Cabernet Sauvignon grape. Its culture in Bordeaux is so much different than Burgundy that we talked about recently. Burgundy, very informal grape farmers. Bordeaux, aristocratic. Chateaus, very difficult to taste there. But it's just an entirely different environment. And a family owns it. It's called Chateau something or other. In Burgundy, they've got Napoleonic heredity laws where people just own a row because they had to hand it down to all their children. So they'll just own a row of a grapevine. And it's just a very, very different environment. The left bank, it's considered the left side of the waterways over there, is primarily Cabernet Sauvignon. And the right bank, Saint-Emilion and Pomerol, are primarily Merlot. But you can have any of the 5 grapes in them. This is Petit Bordeaux, Malbec, all those that are blended with the Cabernet Sauvignon. The soil there is primarily gravel. The aroma, a huge spectrum, but I think a lot of them from France get more of that dark cherry, coffee, earth. And that's why when they age for a long time, that starts to soften out, and they think of the French ones as complex. But the flavor, mineral and fruit with drying tannins, food pairing steak, lamb, spicier, saltier, fattier foods. And this is hard for us sometimes because we've all gone to lighter diets to find something that could stand up to this.
Now, Marilyn, in France, a Bordeaux is similar to what we call a Cabernet here. Do California and other places blend like they do in France?
Not as much at all.
Not at all.
If they do in California, they'll call it a Meritage.
All right.
Because they're saying, hey, we're going after that thing they're doing in France. We're blending with the same kind of grapes they do. But because of a different climate,
Doesn't work.
it seems very different.
Okay.
The French climate is going to be a little bit more bitter. The bodies are going to be thinner. I've just noticed that over the years when I'm drinking all my old French wines, and then we compare them with a California one, that they really are different. But anyway, we're going to have to get on to business here.
All right.
All right.
Forward to this part of it.
So what we need to do is take a look at this against the white tablecloth. And what do you think about that color? What would you call that?
Well, it's a deep, not a real deep dark red, but it's a full red.
It's a big red, dark garnet.
Dark garnet, yes,
Something like that.
but it's not a dark red, but it's definitely red.
And how does it move in the glass? It moves like it's got a pretty big body.
Yeah, it's got some legs.
Oh yeah. This one in particular, I'm going to show you the bottle. One of the guys at the wine shop turned me on to. And this is a La Ville Pavillon 2018, and it will not say Cabernet Sauvignon on the label. This is true French. It will say Bordeaux Rouge, and it's generically from the Bordeaux region instead of a specific area like Saint-Estèphe or Margaux.
So we know that this is a blended wine.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes when we go to the package store and we pick up a wine and it's a blend, they may show you what the blend is, a certain amount of Syrah, Merlot, and whatnot. That is their secret when they're doing a Bordeaux. Is that correct?
No, they'll tell you.
They'll tell you the percentage.
This one didn't.
All right, because I didn't see it on there.
It wasn't just there. I can't tell you how much time on the web because I really wanted to make sure it was more Cabernet Sauvignon than Merlot or
Right.
left back. And it turns out it is, but it would never give me
All right.
the percentage. I looked all over the place.
So some wineries will give you the percentage of what the different grapes
Most
are.
of them will.
Okay.
Most of them will tell you. And it can be like 55%, 45%, something like that.
Okay.
So what do you think about the bouquet and the aroma? The aroma is from the grape. The bouquet is the winemaker if he aged it or something.
It's very full. You can definitely, it's not a faint aroma for sure.
You get dark cherry or strawberry or?
Dark cherry more than strawberry to me.
Okay, dark cherry. And it's big in the nose?
Yes, I would say it's a big nose. It's sometimes you have to really figure out what if it does have an aroma. This one definitely, as soon as you put your nose near the glass, you got an aroma, and I think the cherry is really what I'm smelling.
I find it pleasant. I like.
Yes.
the body and everything in it. So what do you think it's going to taste like in the mouth?
Well, in swirling it, it doesn't look as big as or full as some of the other Cabernets that I've seen. So I don't expect it to be a big, full aroma or a full taste based on what I'm seeing. But that's the fun part. We'll find out.
Just one comment I want to make. This is going to be murder for you all to read, but it's so easy for us to be informal here, and I think you can hear what we're saying. But at the end, so that you all can see what we come up with, because we may go back over this a few times, we're going to throw it on Excel. So at the very end, you'll be able to see it. But your answer is going to be different than ours anyway. You're probably using different wines. You may have different years. You certainly have different palates. And you may very well have some different opinions. So, but at any rate, we want to make sure you can see what we came up with. So we're going to throw it onto Excel at the end. And ready?
Ready, set,
go.
I think I was right. It's not really full in your mouth.
I got buried at the beginning and then boom.
Yeah. And sometimes you have a Cabernet and it really fills your mouth up with a lot of fullness. And this is a very thin wine, comparatively speaking.
Okay, so we got a short finish. Are you getting any fruit in the mouth? With that short opportunity to figure out what it is?
I'm getting less fruit in the mouth than I did in the nose. It's smooth. It doesn't have a ton of tannins.
A little tart.
Little tart.
Little tannins.
And it seems to me when I drink a French Bordeaux, they seem to be, I'm not an expert, but if you just said one of these is French and the other two are not, I think I would be able to pick it up just from the times that I've tasted other French Bordeaux in the past. They're not as full in the mouth, and they seem to be smoother with less tannins than sometimes we find in American Cabernets.
I would agree with you. Sometimes they're very thin and can be bitter compared to Americans. But we'll get into it when we talk about California, but our palates are getting so used to this
right,
sun-drenched thing.
And the different, really tasting the berry or the fruit in it more so than you taste here. You smell it, but you don't get the taste in the mouth as much, I don't think.
I'm gonna get a little something, but I can't tell what strawberry or raspberry. It's right at the beginning, must be the tip of my tongue gets it. And it's very subtle fruit, whatever it is.
I think the aroma was more cherry, but I think the taste is more a light strawberry almost. I don't taste the cherry nearly as much as I smell in the aroma.
I agree with you. Is it a pleasing wine?
Very pleasing. You could just sit here and drink it because it has very few tannins. It's very refreshing for a red wine on a summer day. It's not like you have to drink this when you're having a big steak or it's a cold day and you want to have a nice full Cabernet. It's a lighter Cabernet to me, tasting wine.
Do you think it's balanced between the nose and in the mouth?
When you say balanced, does that mean the nose and the mouth smell and taste the same thing?
Not the same thing, just not one of them overpowers the other, where you get really faked out. Because you didn't pick up this huge taste when you got in the nose, or you expected something from smelling it, and that didn't come through in the mouth.
I expected more of a cherries when I first smelled it. When I tasted it, it's much more of a very subtle strawberry.
I'm going to put the nose a little stronger.
But very pleasing wine.
It's smooth.
Smooth, very smooth.
Yeah,
Yes.
some of the French, you can say elegant. This one, I wouldn't go that far. I would say smooth. Okay, now we're going to go on and talk about one from California. Now, we were real familiar with California Cabernets. Our country is loaded with them. We've had a chance, a lot of us, to taste in Napa. I recently got back from Paso Robles, and my goodness, the sun is in those grapes. And a lot of those grapes, they're French grapes. They're changing the nature of them. But once you get used to this really big wine, it's a little hard to drink the thinner, more bitter ones. So it tends to taint our palates a little bit. But this one, generally speaking, ours are going to, California is going to be more alcohol. The flavors are usually richer. Sometimes they're over oaked, some of the ones we get. But I think more and more we're seeing just a lot of sun in them, just big. Blueberry, blackberry, food pairing, porterhouse steaks, lamb stews, portobello mushrooms, grilled burgers. That's Americana.
Right.
The reason we're not losing any weight is because the cabs really need something big to stand up to.
That and the COVID are not helping with the weight loss at this time.
But I wanted to show you the bottle. Now, this is one a couple of us found not too long ago, and we're very fond of it. It's Carnivore. It says, because it's American, Cabernet Sauvignon, it's 2017. The region's California, so that means it's not as elite as a Napa wine, which would cost more. So this is just saying, hey, I'm generic.
So
In
they
terms
could have
of,
gotten their grapes from anywhere.
yep, got the grapes from anywhere in California. They could have come from, but I am intrigued with Paso Robles because I found a lot of places when you see it on the menu for a cab by the glass, it will be much cheaper, and the quality is fairly comparable to what I might have to spend for a Napa by the glass. So I'm really thrilled with that new area coming up in our country. So what do you think of this? Oh, the other thing I wanted you to check before I forgot. One thing that interested me when I used to do blind tasting was, can you see through it? The first one, I can see through it. Semi-transparent. It used to be when we had a blind taste, if you couldn't see through it, you said, it's got to be a cab. But see, there's a cab, and it was French, and we couldn't see through it. But this puppy.
This one is much darker than the first one we drank.
And you can't see through it.
Can't see through it. They're both red, but this is a much deeper,
Purple.
almost purple, right?
Yeah.
A very deep color.
Red purple. Oby. Okay. Purple. What does it look like when it moves around the glass? Does it look like it's humongous?
It definitely looks like it's going to be a bigger, fuller mouth than the other one. It just
I've seen legs.
Oh, yeah.
Got some legs on this puppy. I like looking at the body when it's still in the glass, and then you anticipate what's going to be like in the mouth. What do you think of the bouquet?
No, that's surprising to me. The other one had a bigger bouquet, I think. That's what I'm.
It depends how hard you twirl it. I cheat, I twirl really hard.
It's got a bouquet, but I'm not picking, like the last one, I could definitely smell.
This one get more plum, I think.
Yes, and it's more subtle. It's not as nose forward as the other one.
All right, I agree with you. Subtle. Is it? It's just subtle. We said subtle. So.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give that a negative mark to come back and talk about later. Okay. Now, what do you think it's going to be like in the mouth?
Well, it sure looks like it's going to be a fuller mouth than the other one. It just looks that way.
We can kind of cheat and say, gee, California,
Yeah.
sunny.
Yeah.
Could be big. All right. Let's see. What's on the edge of the tongue? Blackberry, blueberry?
Oh yeah, there's like, this is the opposite of the other one.
Yes.
The other one had more aroma but less taste in your mouth. This one had less aroma but much more taste in your mouth.
What is it? Is it dark blackberry?
Yes.
Or blueberry? I think I'm blueberry.
I think in blueberry
I had
too.
blueberry for breakfast. I think that's what's. All right. Wow, big.
Definitely a fuller mouth. I don't taste any tannins in this.
Does the finish last a long time in your mouth?
Longer than the other one did, I believe.
It's
Yes.
a bigger finish. Does it cover all your tongue?
Yes. I knew it would be a fuller mouth, but it's not quite as full as I thought it would be in terms of, but yet it has got a big finish on it.
Big finish. Is it complex? Does it change tastes, or does it pretty much stay blueberry?
I'm tasting blueberry all the way.
Look at those sweetie at the end.
Very, very subtle, but it's definitely, it doesn't have a big change at the end for sure.
One of my blind tastings, I was always able to tell California was too. It had a sweetie bouquet,
Yeah.
which the French never did. Sweetie finish. Do you get any tannin in this puppy?
It's very smooth. I get hardly any tannin at all. If there's any there, I can hardly taste it, which is very unusual for I found that these are reasonably priced wines, and there's very few tannins. This is really a nice wine for the price.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. And I've heard the expression blueberry before, but I've never really tasted it until I've tasted this one. There's been hints of it, but I think that really, really describes this one.
That just hit me because I think, gee, I had blueberry on my cereal, but boy, I didn't know I had it in my drink.
Maybe we should use
Well, let's just
this,
stop now and work on this one for a while.
or we could have this tomorrow with our cereal instead of
Yeah.
blueberries. We just
Well,
throw
there's
a
an
little
idea.
wine in there.
There's an idea. Let's give that a shot. Let's see, there's anything else. You think it's balanced? Don't you said it isn't balanced because the mouth is so much bigger
Mm-hmm.
than the bouquet.
But I don't know if that's a bad thing, but it's if you swirl this around, yes, you're going to get some subtle hints, but you're not going to have a correct clue
didn't
of
set
what
us
it's
up
gonna-
for it.
Right, you would not
surprised
know
us.
that. Yeah,
You may have to have some blue cheese here.
I think that's a good idea.
Do
That's a very nice wine.
you like that puppy?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So there's anything else we wanted to say about that? He's a good. He's a good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we're gonna jump over to Italy. Now this is gonna be fun. Oops, I need to go here and then go there. Italy, the story of super Tuscans. Apparently, well, Italy has 21 wine regions. Every inch of Italy is a wine region. And they sent their kids over the United States to learn about winemaking techniques. The kids came back and said, if you want to go after the American palate and the American wallet, you got to make a wine with Cabernet Sauvignon. And the Italian said, no, all of our grapes are unique to Italy. We don't do that. The wine organization said, no, we don't do that. They said, well, we're going to do it anyway. So the children, particularly in the Tuscany area, went ahead and started mixing their grapes with Cabernet Sauvignon and created this burst for Cabernet Sauvignon and the American wallet and the American palate.
Can you remind me where Tuscany is on the map of Italy?
It is up above the leg. I think it's a little bit northeast of Rome.
Okay.
Rome's down here, but it's up above the shoe or halfway up. It's on the east side.
Okay.
Tuscany is. But I have not been to Tuscany. I've been to a whole lot of other areas in Italy, but I think that's correct. The aroma, cherry, may have notes of floral and nutty also. Food pairing, cream sauces, tomato, pasta dishes with deep complex flavors, roasted meats, game, chicken, and wine. So I'm going to go and I'll show them the bottle. And I just bought this from a little wine shop down the hill the other day because I was just finding out that maybe Australia isn't number 3 in Cabernet Sauvignon. It's really the Super Tuscans are taken over in Italy. So this one's a very pretty bottle. It is Brunatelli from Belle Stella, Toscana. And again, it doesn't say Cabernet Sauvignon. But on the back, it says 85% Cabernet Sauvignon, 15% Cabernet Franc. So if it had one more grape in it, it would really qualify as a Bordeaux, actually. Okay, and it's a little more expensive, but again, I didn't shop all over the place. I just wanted to make sure we had one from that region. So what do you think of the color of this one?
It's darker than the first, but is not as dark as the second one.
You could almost see through it, but not quite.
Not quite. Mm-hmm.
Not
and I
quite. Try that. Not trans. Partially trans.
It's like a very deep rose color, super deep. But you still can almost see through it.
Rose. How does it move in the glass?
Lots of legs on this one.
Ooh. Okay.
And from looking at it again, it seems to be the medium one. It doesn't look as full-bodied in the glass
That's number 2.
as number 2, but it looks a little fuller than number 1.
Not as big as 2. What do you think of the aroma and bouquet?
Got a lot more of a bouquet than the second one. It's not a berry bouquet. I always have difficulty coming up with a proper terminology.
I think I'm still picking up some cherry. One black cherry, but then I swirl like crazy. So I have to fight hard to get deep cherry, deep plum, something more subtle.
But it also got some earthy thing in there that's just
On the end of it.
Yeah, and I don't know how to describe it. Very pleasant. I like the aroma very much. I think it's my favorite of the 3 for the aroma. Because
subtle
it's
fruit with earth.
Yes, it's got more going on in terms of the aroma in the glass.
Complex.
Yeah, very pleasing aroma.
What do you think it's going to taste like?
I think it's going to be, again, I'm just on our 2 before this, I think it's going to be right in the middle. I don't think it's going to be quite as full-bodied as our American one, but I think it's going to be more full-bodied than the French one.
All right. Kind of dropped off a little.
Yeah, it is not as full-bodied as I thought it was going to be.
No, it went kapow.
Right.
Almost like strawberry water or something.
Right, it just disappeared in your mouth.
Whoa. Come on, look at his body. Finish. What happened to that puppy?
There's, it almost tastes watery to me.
Very thin.
Yes.
Body thin.
It does not have the same taste as the bouquet at all.
No. So balanced. No. Surprise. I'm not getting any of that neat earthiness that was coming across in the nose.
I'm having a hard time identifying anything.
Huh? I'm getting a little dryness, so I may have some tannin in there.
Yes, it's definitely a dry finish, very dry. Compared to the other two, they had neither one of them had a dry finish at all. I'm gonna try this.
This is a 16, so maybe it needs to age some more, but I don't know that's ever going to get a bigger body.
It's the oldest of the three we tasted.
Yeah. It isn't going to get bigger, I don't think. Let's see. But that's a surprise to me because
No, I'll definitely get this one. I really like this one. This is a great wine, just period. And
that's your favorite.
Yeah, no doubt. The first one's nice, but I definitely like the second one. And this one's a real disappointment to me. I mean,
I wasn't like, I'll give that a 19. I give Tenor 18.5. And then I give this one like a 16.
yeah, I would say, if you add all the factors in, and I know it's, I'm always super pleased when I can get a great bottle of wine in the $10 to $12 range.
Mm-hmm.
First two fulfill that one. Second one is a real disappointment. I'd be really sad if I brought that home thinking I was treating someone to something because I paid twice as much, and it really does not have a lot going on here. Great bouquet.
I'm very surprised. But when I was just making sure the bottle was good this morning,
yeah,
I was surprised how thin it
Yeah.
was. Well, maybe it'll open up by later today. And that hasn't happened. So if we look at our overall, we liked the Carnivore in California, though it had a subtle nose, was very big in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a treat to have a blueberry come across. It was bigger in the mouth, but that doesn't mean that's bad. It was just pleasing and soft and smooth.
And the blueberry was not sweet. There was a blueberry flavor without being sweet, because I do not like a sweet, any sweet wine.
So it was dry.
Yeah, it was dry, but it still definitely had the blueberry taste in your mouth.
The French one was kind of typical French, except kind of a shorter finish than I was expecting. It had kind of a bigger nose than number two. It was pleasant, but it was had a short finish.
Yes.
And here with the Cabernet, you're really expecting
Yes.
in your mouth something to last longer. And then number three was just kind of a surprise shock, because it set us up pretty well in the glass and in the nose,
Yep.
and the body wasn't there. So it could be a bad year in Italy. That's something we can look up to see what that vintage was like.
Yeah.
But I see definitely that we had an issue there. So
And I'd be curious, based on your travels in France and whatnot, would the French palate prefer the French wine to the California wine?
any day of the week.
Any day of the week. It's just what you get used to, I guess.
Yeah, but they would have one more aged
Mm-hmm.
and one of the better years and one of the better wineries.
Right.
And they would have put it away a long time ago, and they would pull it out now because we came to visit. But still, some of those older ones. I mean, you have some of the famous older Bordeaux. Margaux, I'm very, very fond of. It's a balance. It's 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, 50% Merlot. And that just softens, and I like that because sometimes the ones on the left take so long to age. There's so much cab in them.
Mhm.
At any rate, what I'm going to do is I want to thank you.
Oh, this was fun.
For
You introduced me to two reasonably priced wines that I can go out and get and know that I'm going to enjoy. And you made me avoid spending $26 on a bottle of wine that I don't like.
Look what I saved you. I'm doing. Anyway, in a couple minutes, we'll come back with the spreadsheet and you'll get to look at those results more closely if you choose to. But we want to prepare you for kind of the surprise add-on to our sensing, Italian Nebbiolo. And we're not doing it from 3 different countries, but we're doing it from 3 different sub-regions of Piedmont, because this is where the grape comes from. Nebbiolo means fog. And they are some of the biggest wines in the world. I'm not sure the ones we get, because you really need to age them for a long time, are going to be that robust. But we certainly will have a good time. So if you hang on a second, we'll be back with that spreadsheet. And thanks so much for Dan. I really appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, that was a lot of fun, that Cabernet Sauvignon tasting with Dan. And I want to thank Dan and his wife, Marge, who did that Pinot Noir sensing a little bit earlier. Anyway, I'm just going to go over a summary of the pros and cons, because you all just attended this with us. I think maybe the French was just a little too young and made a little more age on it, being a Bordeaux in 2018. That's pretty young. But at any rate, we liked the nose in it. We had a color of dark garnet, so the plus was the nose. It was big. And Doug Cherry was kind of a neat surprise. But it had a short finish, and it seemed a little tart. And the nose just was much more attractive than what it turned out to be in the mouth. Well, in California, we had the flip effect. This was really dark, inky. It looked like it had a big body, but we had a hard time picking up something in the nose, but in the mouth, it blew us away. This was really good, and for the price, it's great. But then, in terms of balance, the mouth was so much bigger than the nose. Italy, we said, all right, super Tuscan, we're ready. And the nose was very subtle, and the mouth just went away. So that, I'd say, was a surprise. But I think Dan was happy to find one that really was to his liking, and was a pretty big one. But then again, we've got kind of American palates where we tend to drift toward the bigger wines, and it's a little harder for us to be attracted to the thinner bodies. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. We did, and I hope to see you next in the Nebbiolo. Hello, Italy.